Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard budget Shadow Paladin deck profile for post Phantasmal Steed restoration. Wanted to do an update. I was getting a lot of requests for a budget version of the Shadow Paladin deck, focusing on some of the newer support from the latest set, while also not having to dive too deep into some of the more pricey cards for the Cardfight Vanguard deck, including Mordred Phantom, Skullwitch Nemain, Swordbreaker, you name it. Those cards are very pricey. Want to make a fun deck that you can use for the Shadow Paladin using a good amount of the older support, which is actually quite budget friendly now, depending on the units you want to use, along with some of the new ones. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the monsters, for the grade 3 lineup, I decided as one of the main units to be Danger Lunge Dragon. When placed, you can Soul Blast 1 and return a grade 2 card from your drop zone to your hand. So a great way just to recover some of the units that you've gone through, like Blaster Dark, to reuse again on the rear guard for their retire skills or some of their call skills, you name it. Very, very consistent with a good amount of the grade 2s we have in the deck, since they're all just skills you can reuse, especially on the rear guard. And on Vanguard or rear, when it attacks, if you have 3 or more force markers, Soul Blast 1 grade 3, until end of battle, this unit gets plus 10,000 extra critical, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from the hand. So all in all, a very, very strong card, especially if you stack the force markers on your Vanguard circle, giving you the plus 10 with Imaginary Gift Force 1, that additional critical, and then if any additional triggers are gained as well with Danger Lunge, can really come in handy to go up against your opponent, and depending on the play they were going to do as well with their deck. So I like to focus on Danger Lunge. You can just consistently ride this card for the additional recycle of your grade 2 units, and also just for that pressure by Soul Blasting a grade 3. So as long as you're not Soul Blasting a grade 3 for the first skill, you'll have the option for more available cards with this one on the field as well. This is why I like to run it, since it also has the rear guard effect for the plus 10,000 in critical, just depending on having the 3 or more force markers. So definitely needed late game for after the consistent rides with all your other grade 3s as well. And then for the backup grade 3, I was honestly debating what I wanted to use, but I decided to go with 4 of the Dark Dictator. But you can just as easily go for Phantom Blaster Dragon. The normal Vanguard rare version of Phantom Blaster Dragon is very affordable now. Very good to combo with Danger Lunge just for the back and forth, depending on what Soul Blast grade 3 skill you wanted. But with the Dark Dictator, during your turn, this unit gets plus 2,000 for each of your other rear guards. And for a once per turn on Vanguard, Counterblast 1, call up to 1 grade 2 or less card from your hand to rear. That unit gets plus 5,000 to end of turn, and your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. So the biggest thing that limited us with some of the old skills, including Gust Blaster, is that you needed like the Blaster Soul. So relying on Danger Lunge and Dark Dictator as your main go-to grade 3s means you don't really have to worry about any specific name. You just have to, get your power up with the force markers, with Danger Lunge having the need for the 3 force markers, and then Dark Dictator just relying on big numbers as well that you can call out, and retiring your opponent's rear guards with its other skill as a once per turn. Very, very affordable as well for both of these grade 3s, which is what I wanted to go for with the Shadow Paladin deck for the budget build. It's just a much easier build for everyone to build, depending on what they wanted to use for their units. But like I said, now that I believe Phantom Blaster Dragon is still single digits, if you wanted to try this card out, works just as well. You can even try a back and forth between Gust Blaster and Phantom Blaster. That might be another build I'll focus on, but for this one, the main goal is the 4 Danger Lunge Dragon and then the 4 Dark Dictator for the grade 3 lineup. And then that is it for the grade 3s. When I move on to the grade 2s, still running the 4 Blaster Dark. It's just a great card pressure-wise on your grade 2 ride. Since when placed, Counterblast 1, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. And that's on Vanguard or rear. So you can consistently reuse this skill with Danger Lunge Dragon, just adding back Blaster Dark to your hand. But it also makes a viable ride target if your opponent has no rear guard, discard a card from your hand, and this unit gets drive plus 1 until end of turn. So once per turn, Vanguard only effect, but having twin drive means you have a better chance at getting triggers to use against your opponent with this card. So very, very useful to rely on as well, which is why I like to run the 4. It was made available in the trial deck, so as long as you have those options available to you, aside from the art currently, you got the other different versions, and just another easy, viable grade 2 to use. Another one that was made easier to get in the Phantasmal Steed Restoration set, since it was only a double rare. I run 4 Barrier Troop Revenger Dorint. On rearguard, when placed, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. If Frontline Revenger Claudus is on your vanguard or rear, draw a card. So just that additional draw power definitely does come in handy to keep your hand consistent with this deck, and the plus 10,000 power as well with all the different numbers you can reach definitely does come in handy as well. It's an only rearguard effect, but most of the time I want my ride target to be Blaster Dark with the deck, since you have that option for the twin drive, and then having Dorint on rear as extra backup. You don't even need to have, the grade 3. You just need to have Claudus to get the additional draw for more consistency to have in your hand for guards and defense. But like I said, just a good 4 of option also, since it's not that expensive, just being a double rare. I think just a couple of cents on the dollar of that for each copy of this card. And then also to finish off the grade 2s, I thought of Maka, but I decided if you want to run Maka, you can. But I decided to go with Dark Bond Trumpeter for the last of the grade 2 spots. Curse Lancer was another option as well, just for the call power you have with that card. But with Dark Bond Trumpeter, when placed, counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 5,000 power card, call it to rear as rest, and shuffle your deck. Now, the only thing really, since Skull Witch in the main is kind of pricey, I decided to keep it out of the budget build, is one of your trigger units, just as additional units to call out with this card. You can try around some other cards as well. Swordbreaker was still kind of pricey, but this was just the last final spot option to go for, in my opinion, just as another good card. When your 5,000 rearguard is placed, this unit gets plus 3,000, just another power up as well. When you can use it, but most of the time I like to rely on Dorint and Blaster Dark as the main grade 2s, but still wanted a good backup option as well for the grade 2 numbers, which I felt Dark Bond Trumpeter, just having that search option available to use, definitely does come in handy, since it's also a vanguard or rearguard skill as well. And that's it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. Along with Dorint, I run 4 Frontline Revenger Claudus. At the end of the turn, if your vanguard is grade 3, counterblast 1, put this unit to your soul, draw a card. If Barrier Troop Dorint is on your vanguard or rear, countercharge 1. So just having that draw power along with Dorint definitely does combo well. That's why I wanted to max out both copies of this card for the deck, since you have those options available to you for your cards. Just draw power consistency, making sure you don't eat up your counterblasts, so you'll get the draw with Claudus, the draw with Dorint. As long as both of them are working well together and you max out their numbers, you will definitely hit good numbers along with this for the draw. And then just like I said, using your resources to power up Dorint, but also relying on Claudus for that draw power definitely does come in handy. And also, just another non-pricey one, I run 4 Transient Revenger Masquerade. You counterblast 1, put this unit to your soul, call Blaster Dark from your drop zone to rear, and that unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So just being able to call Blaster Dark opens you up for other cards you can call with Danger Lunge Dragon. Also giving you soul power with Masquerade means you don't have to eat up the soul with Danger Lunge, and preserving your Soul Blast grade 3s for other skills, including Danger Lunge's plus 10 critical Sentinel Restriction skill. So Masquerade definitely does come in handy for that. And during the battle boosted, this unit gets plus 3,000. So being an 11k boost, along with some of your other more powered up units, you can hit for some pretty high numbers, which is definitely useful as well. And I also run 4 Blaster Javelin. I've always loved this card for the budget builds. Just affordable, easy to gain access to on rearguard when placed. If you have 2 or more grade 1 or less rearguards, counterblast 1, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 3,000. So along with Dorint, just more draw power. All your grade 1s either rely on retiring or, just adding cards back to your hand to use. Just like Masquerade, adding Blaster Dark after, let's say, you Soul Blasted with Danger Lunge. Danger Lunge can then be open to add other grade 2s that your opponent may either retired, ones you recovered from damage, or ones that you just guarded with. But the draw power with Blaster Javelin definitely is a big bonus as well, just having multiples of these in your hand to call. And then to finish off the grade 1 lineup, I am running 2 Blaster Dagger. When it attacks or the attack at boosted hits a vanguard, put this unit to your soul. Your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. Just another additional option for you to clear out your opponent's rear guards. I liked it as that final spot as well, just for that option, depending on what you're going up against with your opponent, making them waste new resources. You can obviously attack the front row of their rear guards with your own units, and then use the other cards like Blaster Dagger and Blaster Dark to take care of the ones they're trying to preserve in the back row. And that's it for the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, still decided to stick with full bow for the starter since it is the one that Ren uses with his Blaster Dark lineup, just for the budget lineup builds. But either one, since it has the same when wrote upon draw a card effect. And then for the trigger lineup, still going with the 8 critical, so 4 Darkside Trumpeter and 4 Death Feather Eagle for that lineup. And I also have the Mac Lears in here for the draw trigger, but if you don't have these, going for a more budget build, you can put the normal draw trigger in here and instead take out either the full playset of the Blaster Javelin for the grade 1 Sentinel, or you can take out 2 of the dagger and 2 of the javelin for the grade 1 Sentinel. It can be either one, the generic one, or the one where you discard, draw one, ride with it, just for those options available to you. All depends on if you have the Mac Lear Perfect Guards or not. And lastly, the 4 Abyss Healer, just being the generic heal we use for the Shadow Paladin deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.